Welcome back. You are watching The Core, and we're talking about INEC's preparedness for the forthcoming elections. Now, you can join the conversation on our social media handles, Twitter at Channels TV or Ask Adria Ahmed, on YouTube at Channels Web. Please use the hashtag #NGTheCore. You can also follow us on Facebook at Channels Forum. Now, before the break, we started talking about the certification for your technology systems.
Yes.
And Amara had mentioned that he was very surprised that 4 years since the last elections, we haven't seen you certify the technology that you're using, at least utilizing certification that is internationally recognized. But you were saying you didn't really understand
the point is this. Any organization or any company that is printing ballot papers for the Independent National Electoral Commission must obtain all those certifications. All the places where we do procurement must have all those certifications. The Independent National Electoral Commission has its mandate to organize and supervise elections. So by saying that the Independent National Electoral Commission should go and be obtaining certification, I think he's going outside this mandate.
Is that the case, Amara?
We are not a technology company. We are just an election management agency.
Okay, so let's listen to you.
Not necessarily. INEC manages information that is of sensitive nature that can affect the nature and the perception of elections. That information is managed by processes. Some of them are governance processes because they involve decisions that affect candidates and the outcome of elections. There are ways in which those processes can be governed so that they meet standards and they are transparent and people can see.
So maybe you have to be a bit specific so that he responds to specific questions.
Okay, so for instance, if you're deploying over 120,000 devices in the field, what's the guarantee that all of them behave the same? That they all accredit voters the same way, that they make the same decisions about fingerprints? How do you guarantee that? How do you guarantee that information?
Is this the sort of guarantee that you would normally get from a certification? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
You have to remember you are the technology expert. We're all amateurs here, so we need to understand exactly what you're saying.
Yes, because these are what we call enterprise systems, which means that they're large-scale systems. There are thousands and thousands of them. You have to have a process to make sure that they all behave the same.
But if his suppliers have those certifications, like he pointed out,
yes,
and he buys his technology from certified vendors, is that not enough?
No, it's not enough. I mean, the technology still has to be used by INEC. The information that is created on the technology still is what is relevant to the elections, and those have to conform. And the technology can be manipulated by individuals who are using them. So you want to be sure that you are able to detect if something has gone wrong, because you can't guarantee that nobody will do something that is not
let me bring in
appropriate.
Mr. Itodo here. You were an observer at both the Ekiti and the Osun elections. Mm-hmm. Based on what you saw, is this a concern at all, the way technology behaves? If not, are there any concerns? What are they?
I think it's important to situate this discourse on technology and elections within the broader context of the discussion on electoral integrity. Because electoral integrity, and when you talk about trust in the electoral process, is not blind trust. The more a system is closed, the more it becomes difficult for people to actually assess whether the system is fireproof. And because you have seen over the last couple of months, and with the stories and reports on purchase of permanent voters card, that has raised a lot of concerns, because why are politicians interested in purchasing permanent voters card? And there are two schools of thought. First is, are they buying those cards as a strategy of voter suppression? So in opposition strongholds, voters will not have the PVCs to vote because INEC has said no PVC, no voting. Or they are collecting those or purchasing those permanent voters card because there is a probability that INEC's database either can be hacked or there can be backdoor entries into INEC's voter database. But if you look at the in fact, the 4 elections, if you look at Ondo, if you look at Ondo, Edo, Anambra, Ekiti, and Osun, from our watching the vote findings, and we deployed the parallel vote tabulation, there has been an increase in the efficacy of the card readers to accredit voters.
So that's an improvement?
That's an improvement.
Okay.
For the verification of the permanent voter's card, it's greatly improved. But where there's still a concern is the fingerprint authentication. And that is still a problem. Even in the by-elections that was conducted, I was in Bauchi, there were still incidences of where where the card reader couldn't authenticate the fingerprint of the voters. But for the verification of the PVCs, to a great extent, what we have seen over the last 5 elections, there has been an improvement in the efficacy of the card reader machines to accredit voters.
When you were talking about the authentication of fingerprints, I heard you muttering that this is where you have concerns as well.
Yeah, the political party have concern in this area because if you look at, you just asked the question, now why are people buying the PVCs? Why are the PVCs or say why other politicians or maybe for the ones are so interested in buying this permanent voters card? It's because when you now do verification for the card, and the card is verified and the fingerprint is rejected, the person can still vote. And I don't know how they're going to do it, but what we want is a situation whereby the fingerprint become the major reason for anybody to go to vote. If you do that, you give more integrity to the electoral process than allowing the card reader be a major reason why the person will now have to sign. The INEC has actually informed us that there's no need for incident form, that there will be a form created with pictures of each of the, how they call it, voter, everything properly tabulated. But at the end of the day, we are going to be overstretching the general election. Okay, so what is the proof for the fingerprint to become the major reason why we verify each of the voter to vote in an election?
So mass buying of voter cards, clearly a threat. And they're saying that by allowing people to vote when you can't verify fingerprints, in many ways, that threat becomes even bigger.
Look, I think we should understand this thing properly.
Okay.
We should, first of all, get to the root of this matter. Ask the political parties or the politicians buying these voters' cards why they are buying. As the INEC keeps on trying to improve on the regime of credible elections, and then some politicians, some political parties are also moving ahead to look for ways and means of undermining the process. So we should also find out from them why they are interested in undermining the process rather than improving on the process.
But
that is one.
Clear, isn't it?
That is one.
Yeah.
The second issue is that Nigeria and the Independent National Electoral Commission operates a duality when it comes to the issue of accreditation. The base of the electoral process is the voters' register. Each presiding officer goes to the polling unit with the voters' register. When you come with your permanent voters' card, the first thing the presiding officer and the other electoral officers on ground, the first thing they need to do is, one, to verify whether you are even in the correct polling unit. Because there's a VIN number attached to each permanent voters card. And then they look at your name and the photograph on the permanent voters card. Then cross-check.
Which is not very good, by the way. Mine, you can't.
Yeah, some of them are not very good. I agree. And then they also look at the voters register, because your picture is also on the voters register and your picture is on the permanent voters card. It is a duality of this that creates the synergy that you need. So the first thing you do is, this permanent voters card, is it genuine? Is it cloned? Does it emanate from the Independent National Electoral Commission? The moment you clarify that and verify that, then you go to the next stage. By then, you have looked at the voters register to see that the PVC matches what you have in the voters register. So the failure
of the fingerprints, in other words, you're telling me, is not as big a threat as we think it is, because there are other ways of...
Exactly. It's not a bigger threat.
I want to bring in the audience, actually, to see if we can start having people to contribute. Yes, the gentleman in grey there. The mic is coming to you, so just be a bit patient, sir. Yes.
Thank you very much. My name is Tunde Adejuwon. I am a public relations practitioner and also the media coordinator for Movement for Good Governance. The question here is if INEC is ready. INEC is just 25% of the readiness. The major issues are the politicians ready? Are the voters ready? Are the security agencies ready? If INEC has done what it has to do, and the politicians are busy running all over the place, trying to undermine the process, trying to see how they can cheat the process, INEC's readiness will still come to naught. We have to, as a people, understand one thing. The readiness of INEC has to do with what we as a people are actually ready to do.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Samson, does that sound about right to you?
No, absolutely. You know, that was what I was going to say, but unfortunately, you didn't ask me the question. Because the point I was going to make is we can't talk about the readiness of the Electoral Commission without looking at the elections broadly. Because the elections itself is a multi-stakeholder enterprise. Yes. And what INEC does as an agency is to piece all of this nut and bolts together. And so if you look at whether or not the commission is ready, first, let's look at the pre-election environment. Yes, the commission has published timetable, and there are 8 activities that have been concluded. But there are fundamental issues. Are we asking ourselves, how is the National Assembly and the nature of the National Assembly and the presidency manage the amendments to the Electoral Act? How did that impact on INEC's preparation?
Well,
the political parties, the security agencies also have a fundamental role to play. Yes, so if INEC is, we're going to talk about it. So if we talk about INEC's preparation, I think first let's look at the voter registration process. Let's look at the PVC collection. Yes, the Commission has announced that all the PVCs for all those who participated in the CVR exercise have been produced, and citizens should go and collect their permanent voters card from the designated areas. There are reports that even those who are registered are having challenges, you know, assessing the locations because the PVCs are distributed at the local government areas. I think what INEC needs to do, if possible, because we are close to the elections, is to look at, take the next 2 or 3 weeks. Can we decentralize, just like you decentralize the CVR, to maybe the wards for those who have registered to collect their permanent voters card?
Okay, part of what we will try to answer when we come back from this break. Don't go away.